Hello everyone, Varixis here, and we're going to talk about something that you need to be aware of. Some of you may know of the case between the FBI and the Department of Justice versus Apple products. That's right, the very guys that probably made the phone that's in your pocket right now. This is a very important case with a lot of implications. If you own an Apple product, you need to pay attention to this case. And even if you don't have an Apple product and you just use some other smart device, like a tablet, like a smartphone, you need to pay attention to this because it's going to be a pivotal case in the fight for user encryption. Now, let's get into the big story here. The San Bernardino shootings. The FBI seized an iPhone that was part of the workplace that these two terrorists worked at previously to the incident. Now, they have this iPhone. It is the only phone connected to these shooters that the FBI can find. They destroyed their personal phones. So the FBI thinks that there might be something worth investigating on this phone. So they went to Apple. Now, Apple right currently is being portrayed as, the shining defender of user-end encryption, and they're going to fight for your personal right to privacy. Don't buy any of that, because Apple tried to keep this under wraps. They tried to help the FBI, and their only asking was, let's just keep this quiet. We don't want anybody to know. Now, to be fair on Apple's part, this wasn't so much that they didn't want anyone to know that they're just going to crack open phones willy-nilly. They didn't want anybody to know that they can do it. And it's not because of normal, everyday schmucks like you and me. This is for things like the governments in China, governments in Europe, governments in South America, and our own personal government. They don't want people to know that they have the ability to crack into user data. Because if everyone knew that, they would be flooded and inundated with requests for assistance in certain investigations and other types of data needs by governments and agencies around the world. So, in a case of incompetence and impatience on the FBI's part, they screwed up what Apple told them and said, we need you to help us some more, and Apple said, no, we can't do anything about it now because you screwed it up. And the FBI goes, well, we're just going to drag this out into public then, and we'll see how your tune changes. Now, unfortunately for the FBI, Apple did not buckle, and they are now using this court case as wonderful PR, quite honestly, and top-notch to their PR managers or their lawyers who decided to do the spin on this, because it's really going to work for them. Now, in Apple's case, this isn't so much of personal privacy, and this is only about this phone. This is not about every iPhone in America or in China or anything like that. At least not yet. Right now, it is about this one particular phone connected to the San Bernardino shooters. And that's all it is about this. They were trying to help the FBI get into that specific phone, and the FBI messed it up. The FBI is trying to use this case to put extra pressure on Apple to make a better looking case for the DOJ, Department of Justice, rather, that they need a forensics tool, or that Apple needs to just unlock the phone for them, because they're asking for physical assistance. Now, no matter how you look at this, whether Apple wins or Apple loses, there's going to be a losing scenario on either end of this fork in the road. So if Apple ends up losing this, they will probably have to make a forensics tool that could crack open any iPhone for almost any reason, because the Patriot Act is still a thing. And even if they don't make the tool, they now have the law enforcement agencies around the world now know that Apple has the capability, and there is the precedent for them to use that ability for law enforcement needs. Now, even if they win, the FBI will use the loss on their part as a reason to push legislation through that will force Apple and potentially other tech companies to create backdoors in their software or their hardware, or forensics tools to ensure that any phone that they possess can be opened. And this can and most likely will apply to other smart devices, such as laptops, computers, tablets, and so on. So this is pretty doom and gloomy. This is why you need to pay attention, because this will eventually, one way or the other, lead back into backdoors in user encryption, which is a bad thing. Now, there is a bright side to this, and if you own an iPhone, I can tell you right now what you can do if you are so worried about someone cracking into your phone against your will. The good news is that Apple cannot touch your data if it is encrypted. It'll go to the iCloud, but they can't touch it because the encryption used on your data is specific to your phone. And if you encrypt your data and you apply a strong password, not a gesture, not a passcode or 4-digit number, but an actual password, they can't do anything about it. They can hand all that data over to the FBI and go, it's encrypted. Here's the data, but you can't do anything with it. And then the FBI gets really mad and they basically just call the whole thing a wash. So if you own an iPhone and you are concerned about your personal data being breached, I would highly suggest using a password over a passcode or a gesture, and do not trust your fingerprint reader as a security device, we'll say. So don't trust your fingerprint reader as a security device because it can be fooled and it can probably be bypassed, as we've seen with the latest error debacle that Apple has to deal with. So that's what I wanted to talk to you guys about today, about the Apple case against the FBI and the Department of Justice, why it's important, and what you can do against it. So I will be putting up what I use to get most of my information about. It's a tech show called This Week in Tech. The episode is about an hour, almost 2 hours long. But if you're into tech, I highly recommend this show, and I highly recommend the show as a whole. And you can get a link to that show by clicking the shark butt right here on the screen, and I'll leave that up for just a few more moments. But if you guys have any specific suggestions for topics you want me to cover, dig into research, crack open numbers, debunk anything like that, go ahead and send it to me in the comments below, or send me a message here on Facebook or over at my Twitter or Facebook in the description below. As I said before, my name is Varixis, and I will see you next time.